She stood there, coffee in hand, laughing with her friends like she hadn't just shattered me with a single sentence. I told Jason not to marry her, a broken girl with a bastard kid. That's what my mother-in-law said. Her voice didn't even lower like she was ashamed. She smiled when she said it, as if it made her clever, like the women around her should be impressed by how right she'd been. I stood behind the doorway, frozen, with my daughter's tiny hand wrapped around mine. I wanted to pull her away, shield her, protect her from words like that, ones that cut deep and leave scars you don't see. But Maya had already heard it. I felt her grip tighten, not from fear, but from something sharper, anger. I thought I could just walk away, pretend it didn't happen. I'd done that for years, swallowed the disrespect, the silence, the looks passed like judgment across the table during family dinners. I stayed quiet when she made suggestions about how I dressed Maya, how I shouldn't rely on Jason so much, how I was lucky someone like him took on someone like me. Lucky. But today something changed. I turned to leave, holding Maya close, trying to walk fast enough so the tears wouldn't fall before we got to the car. But Maya tugged my arm and stopped. "Wait, Mom," she said. Her voice was steady, not loud, just sure. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something I hadn't seen her take. Jason's old phone, the one I kept in my nightstand, the one I hadn't touched in almost a year. My stomach dropped. "Maya," I said, "what are you doing?" She looked up at me, and there was something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not just sadness, not confusion. She looked like she was protecting me, like somehow she knew what to do when I didn't. "She needs to hear this," she said. "Daddy made it for her." I didn't even know what she meant. Then I remembered the video. Months before Jason died, before his last surgery, he'd recorded something, a message. He told me once, jokingly, "Just in case I don't make it, this'll be my mic drop moment." I thought it was sweet, nothing more. I never showed it to anyone. But Maya had found it. Before I could stop her, she stepped forward into the room, her tiny frame standing in the middle of a half circle of polished women and pastel blazers. "Grandma," she said, loud enough for every woman in the room to hear. "Dad left this message for you, to remind you who we are." She held up the phone, screen glowing, thumb hovering over the play button. The entire room went quiet. You could feel it, like something had cracked open and no one knew what would come out of it. Elaine's face dropped. Her mouth opened slightly like she was about to scold Maya for interrupting her brunch, but then she saw the screen. She saw Jason's face on the video thumbnail, and she went pale before a single word played. The room stood still. I didn't move. I didn't speak. For the first time in years, I didn't have to defend myself. Jason was going to do it for me. Before Jason, it was just me and Maya. I was 22 when I had her. I'd escaped a relationship that had broken more than just my spirit. He left bruises on my arms and lies in my head, things like, "No one will ever love you and you're nothing without me." I believed him for a while. I believed him all the way into motherhood, holding a newborn in a hospital bed alone, afraid, and already apologizing to my daughter for the life I was about to give her. But Maya didn't make me weaker. She forced me to fight. I went back to school while waitressing nights. Eventually, I landed a job as an ER nurse. I'd work double shifts, come home and help her with her homework, heat up whatever leftovers I had energy to throw together. We shared a one-bedroom apartment, some thrift store furniture, and a tiny balcony where we'd sit at night and make up stories about the people in the buildings across the street. Maya never asked where her dad was. I think, even as a toddler, she understood he wasn't someone worth wondering about. Instead, she looked at me like I was the whole world. That look terrified me, because I didn't feel like the world. I felt like a woman barely holding it together with caffeine, hope, and dollar store mascara. Then came Jason. He walked into my life during a graveyard shift. He was visiting a friend who'd been in a car accident. He sat in the waiting room for 6 hours without complaining once, offering coffee to strangers, cracking gentle jokes that somehow didn't feel forced. When his friend was discharged, Jason stopped by the nurse's desk and handed me a thank you card with a note inside. "You look tired, but your smile made the room feel lighter. Would love to see it again when you're not wearing scrubs." I almost threw it away. I didn't trust men. I didn't believe in fairy tales. But something about his handwriting, neat and steady, told me he was different. He was. Our first date was at a bookstore cafe. He brought Maya a pop-up book about jungle animals. He didn't treat her like an accessory or a test. He asked about her favorite food. She said lasagna. He said, "That's my favorite too," even though he told me later he'd never actually had it. He learned to make it within a week. Jason loved us like he'd been waiting his whole life to. No hesitation, no resentment. He never tried to erase Maya's past. He just became part of her future. When we got married 2 years later, Maya was our flower girl and our ring bearer. She danced with him at the reception, barefoot on the grass, while I watched from a folding chair with tears running down my face. But there was one shadow in that picture. Elaine, Jason's mother. She showed up in pearls and silence. She hugged him tightly and shook my hand like she was holding a dish rag. She didn't cry during the ceremony. She didn't clap after our first dance. During dinner, she turned to my sister and said, "At least the child's cute." My sister wanted to throw her wine in Elaine's face. I begged her not to. I thought maybe in time she would come around. She didn't. Elaine made her judgment clear, not with words but with actions. She never yelled, never argued, but she made sure I felt unwelcome in every possible way. At our first Thanksgiving as a married couple, she arrived with 2 pies, one store-bought and one homemade, and made a point of saying, "I wasn't sure if Zariah knew how to make anything from scratch." At Jason's birthday, she brought framed photos of him from his childhood, every one of them carefully chosen to include only her, his father, and his brother. Never once did she include Maya. Never once did she include me. Jason tried to smooth it over. He believed his mother would come around eventually. He said things like, "She's just old-fashioned," or "She'll see how great you and Maya are, just give it time." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that love, patience, and quiet dignity would win out in the end. But then came the funeral. Jason died in his sleep just 6 months after his 35th birthday. No warning, no health issues. One night, we were planning a trip to the mountains. The next morning, I was calling an ambulance, shaking, screaming, trying to get him to wake up. I barely remember the days that followed. I remember the white of the hospital walls. I remember holding Maya's hand as she asked, "Is Daddy sleeping too long?" I remember Elaine walking into the hospital room, brushing right past me and pressing her hand against his chest like she could reverse time with a single touch. I had to fight just to sign the death certificate. She tried to take over everything. Memorial, burial, obituary. She said it was her right as his mother. When I insisted on being involved, she said, "This isn't about you." I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind her that I was his wife, that he died in our bed, in my arms, not hers. But I didn't. At the service, she made sure I sat in the second row. The seat next to his urn was reserved for her and Jason's brother, Daniel. She barely looked at Maya, who clung to my hand like she was trying to anchor both of us to the earth. I didn't cry during the eulogy, not because I wasn't broken, I was, but because I refused to let Elaine see me fall apart. Afterward, people told me how strong I was, how composed, how graceful in grief. I nodded, smiled, and thanked them. But I wasn't strong. I was trying to survive. Maya took it harder than I did. She stopped eating her favorite cereal. She stopped drawing animals. She asked me once in the dark, "Do you think Daddy knew she didn't love us?" I didn't know what to say, so I told her the truth. I think Daddy loved us enough to make up for what she couldn't give. That year, I did what I'd always done. I put my head down and kept going. I went back to work. I got Maya into therapy. I packed Jason's things one drawer at a time. I said yes when Elaine wanted to take Maya out for lunch, even though I hated how she made my daughter feel small. I said nothing when she forgot to return Maya's coat or send her home with backhanded comments like, "At least she's got her father's nose." I tried to forgive. I tried to keep peace. I tried to believe that silence was the high road. And then came her birthday brunch, the day she called me a broken girl with a bastard kid, the day Maya decided to speak up. I wasn't supposed to be there. Elaine hadn't invited me to her birthday brunch. I found out about it through Daniel's wife, Camille, who casually mentioned it during a phone call. "We'll see you Sunday, right?" she asked. I told her I hadn't heard anything about it. She paused, clearly uncomfortable, then quickly changed the subject. Jason's mother had always preferred appearances over honesty. She liked things neat, curated, controlled. If someone asked why I wasn't there, she'd probably say I was working or needed time to grieve. Anything but the truth, that I wasn't wanted. But Maya insisted we go. "She's still family," she said as she stood in the hallway, arms crossed, dressed in the pink cardigan Jason bought her on her last birthday. "Daddy would have gone." I stared at her, heart aching. Maya's grief had softened into something quieter but still deep. She clung to the rituals that made her feel closer to him, and I knew showing up wasn't really about Elaine's brunch. It was about holding on to a piece of her dad. So I said yes. We picked up flowers from a corner shop, white tulips, Elaine's favorite. I told Maya we'd just stop by, say happy birthday, drop off the flowers, and leave. I rehearsed a polite smile in the rearview mirror, coached myself not to react if Elaine made one of her signature passive remarks. I just wanted to give Maya a moment to feel proud, to do something kind, to be the bigger person, even if her grandmother wasn't. We arrived early. Elaine lived in a 2-story colonial house tucked inside a gated neighborhood. Maya held the flowers tightly while I rang the bell. No one answered. The door was slightly open, so I pushed it gently, just enough to call out. That's when I heard her voice. "I told Jason not to marry her, a broken girl with a bastard kid." She was in the living room, surrounded by her friends, women in pressed slacks and pearls, sipping from mimosa glasses, leaning in to catch every word. They laughed softly, the kind of laugh people use when they agree but want to look innocent. "I tried to warn him," Elaine continued. "She saw a good man and latched on, trapped him with that little girl, but boys never listen." I didn't move. I couldn't. The words felt like a punch to the stomach. I stood just inside the doorway, Maya beside me, her hand still holding the tulips. She wasn't gripping them anymore. They were starting to slide from her fingers. She turned to me slowly, her eyes wide. "Did she mean me?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mouth was dry, my hands were shaking. I wanted to scoop Maya up and run, to protect her from every syllable that had just sliced through the air like a knife. Elaine hadn't seen us yet. She kept talking. "She doesn't belong in this family. I thought once Jason was gone, things would settle. But she's still clinging on, like she thinks she has a place here." The air was heavy. My legs wouldn't move. My face felt hot, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. I looked at Maya, expecting her to be confused or scared, but she wasn't. Her expression had changed. She looked steady. She stepped forward into the room before I could stop her. The tulips hit the floor. Elaine froze. Her friends turned. One of them gasped softly. Elaine's smile dropped like a mask sliding off. Maya stood in the center of the room, her chin lifted. She wasn't shouting. She didn't need to. "Grandma," she said, "we came to say happy birthday." Elaine opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Maya continued, "Daddy said we're always supposed to tell the truth, even if it makes people uncomfortable." The room was silent. I walked in slowly and stood beside her. I wanted to say something, anything, to pull the weight off her shoulders, but she beat me to it. "I heard what you said," she told Elaine, "and I don't think Daddy would be proud of you right now." Elaine's face flushed red. One of the women shifted in her seat, suddenly focused on her glass. I took Maya's hand and we turned to leave. Elaine didn't say a word. That moment was when the shift began. Not in Elaine, but in Maya, in me. For the first time, I saw my daughter not as someone I had to shield, but as someone already carrying strength I hadn't taught her. It lived in her. It was Jason's. It was mine. And it was enough. I didn't sleep that night. After we left Elaine's house, Maya barely said a word. In the car, she stared out the window, her hands folded in her lap. I asked if she was okay. She nodded once. That was all. I could tell she was thinking, but she wasn't ready to speak. I didn't press her. When we got home, I ran a bath for her, helped her into her pajamas, and tucked her into bed. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'm proud of you." She didn't respond right away. Then, softly, she said, "Daddy wouldn't have let her talk like that." I sat on the edge of her bed and rubbed her back. "No," I said, "he wouldn't." That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the couch with Jason's old phone in my lap. It was an old model, scuffed on the edges. He used to joke that he'd never upgrade because this one has all my secrets. I hadn't turned it on since the funeral. When the screen lit up, I expected it to hit me like a wave. But it didn't. It felt like coming home to something familiar. His background photo was still the same, me, Maya, and Jason at the lake. He had his arms around us, all three of us grinning like the world made sense. I started scrolling, photos, voicemails, notes. Then I found it, a video. It was saved under the title Just in Case. I remembered him recording it. He had a surgery scheduled, routine, outpatient. But he had this habit of preparing for the worst. He said, "If anything happens, I want to make sure you and Maya know exactly how I felt. No guessing, no silence." I had never watched it. For a long moment, I sat there, thumb hovering over the play button. Then I closed the phone and set it down. It didn't feel like the right time. The next morning, Maya was already dressed when I woke up. She was sitting at the kitchen table, quietly eating cereal. Jason's phone was next to her bowl. I froze. "You opened it?" I asked. She looked up at me. "I didn't watch it," she said. "I saw the file and I knew it was for her." "For Grandma?" "For everyone," she replied. I sat across from her. I was tired. Not just physically, but deep in my bones. Tired of pretending. Tired of swallowing what I should say, because I was afraid of being labeled difficult, dramatic, or bitter. Tired of defending my family's right to exist. Maya pushed the phone toward me. "We should show her," she said. "You always say, 'Daddy's words matter.'" I took a breath. My first instinct was to say no, that it wouldn't change anything, that Elaine wouldn't care. But the truth was, I cared. I wanted her to hear Jason's voice. I wanted her to see what love looked like when it wasn't wrapped in conditions or expectations. I called Elaine. When she picked up, her voice was tight. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you," she said. "We need to come by," I told her. "Maya has something to give you." She paused. I could hear her take in a sharp breath. "Is this about yesterday?" "It's about Jason." Another pause. Then, reluctantly, "Fine. Come this afternoon." We arrived just after lunch. Elaine opened the door, already defensive. Her makeup was perfect, her blouse crisp, but there was a stiffness in her body that gave her away. She didn't look me in the eye. "Come in," she said flatly. We walked to the living room. Maya clutched the phone in her hand, her knuckles pale. She stepped forward without waiting for me. "Grandma," she said, standing in the middle of the rug, "Daddy left you a message. We think it's time you heard it." Elaine frowned. "What kind of message?" "Just watch," Maya said. She handed her the phone and tapped the screen. Jason's face appeared instantly, alive, smiling. His voice, clear and steady, filled the room. Elaine's face changed before he even spoke. Her eyes widened, her body stiffened. She sat down without meaning to, like her knees gave out beneath her. Jason looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this, Mom..." Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. I stood behind Maya, watching her stand strong and still, not with anger, but with clarity. Jason was about to speak the words I had held in my heart for years, and Elaine was going to have to listen. Jason's face filled the screen. His eyes were soft, his smile quiet and warm, the way it always was when he was about to say something honest. "If you're watching this, Mom," he began, then something happened. Something I hoped wouldn't. But if it did, and you're seeing this, it means I'm not there anymore, which also probably means you've said something or done something I wouldn't have been okay with. Elaine sat frozen on the couch, the phone balanced in her hands. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to interrupt him, but his voice pushed past her pride. "I need you to hear me," Jason continued. "I chose Zariah. I chose Maya. Not because I had to, not because I was tricked or manipulated. I chose them because they are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I need you to stop acting like they're some burden I carried instead of a blessing I fought to keep." I watched her shoulders tense. She was still silent, but her knuckles had gone white. Jason leaned closer to the camera in the video like he was trying to close the distance between them. "Mom, I know you never accepted Zariah. I know you pretended. I know you smiled at dinners and whispered things to your friends behind her back. I know because she told me. And I didn't say anything because I hoped you'd change on your own. I hoped you'd see the way Maya laughs when she's with us. The way Zariah holds everything together with both hands and never complains." Elaine's eyes glistened. "You missed it," he said. "You missed the real stuff. You missed birthdays and bedtime stories. You missed Maya's first piano recital. You missed watching me become the man I always wanted to be. And you missed it because of pride. Because Zariah didn't fit the picture you painted in your head." Jason paused, then added, "But I saw her. And I saw Maya. And what I saw was home." Tears began to fall down Maya's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She stood tall, eyes locked on her grandmother, unflinching. Jason's voice softened. "I'm not angry. I just want you to know the truth. If you can't love them, then I don't want you near them. Because I won't be around to protect them anymore. But I hope you can. I hope you listen. I hope you remember that I was a better man because of them. Not in spite of them." Elaine slowly set the phone down. Her lips were trembling, her eyes were glassy, but she wasn't crying, not yet. She looked at me, then at Maya, like she was seeing us for the first time, not as intruders, not as reminders of a decision she never approved of, but as the people Jason loved more than anything. The silence in the room was thick. Finally she spoke. "I didn't know he felt that way," she whispered. I stepped forward. My voice was calm, but firm. "He told you, Elaine, you just didn't want to hear it." Maya took a step toward her. "Daddy said love isn't a secret, it's something you show." Elaine lowered her eyes. She looked older in that moment, smaller. "I made mistakes," she said, "but I never meant to hurt him." "You didn't just hurt him," I replied. "You hurt us." She nodded slowly, then she looked at Maya. "I don't know what to say." Maya's voice was quiet. "You don't have to say anything. You just have to stop pretending we're not family." Elaine didn't answer. We left a few minutes later. She didn't hug us. She didn't say sorry. But she didn't insult us either. She didn't defend herself. That silence, for once, was not cruel. It was the sound of someone realizing they had nothing left to say. As we walked to the car, Maya slipped her hand into mine. "Do you think she'll ever be different?" she asked. I looked down at her, proud of the strength she carried and the grace she gave so freely. "I don't know," I said. But we were. After that day, Elaine didn't reach out for weeks. There were no calls, no texts, no thank you, no apology. But for the first time, I didn't need one. I wasn't holding my breath, waiting for her to change. I had spent years walking on eggshells, hoping that if I stayed quiet long enough, kind enough, polite enough, she might open the door just an inch. I had wasted too much energy asking to be seen. Now I understood something important. I didn't need her to see me. Jason already had. Maya always did. And I had finally started to see myself. Maya returned to being a kid, not overnight, but slowly. The light came back in small pieces. She started drawing again. One afternoon I came home and found her sketching at the kitchen table, a picture of Jason holding her hand under a tree. She had drawn me too, standing beside them, arms open. There was no space for Elaine in that drawing. I didn't point it out. I didn't need to. Maya already understood who was family. One Saturday morning, while I was folding laundry, she asked if we could visit Jason's grave. We brought flowers, the same white tulips she had once dropped on Elaine's floor. She sat cross-legged in front of the stone and talked to him like he was still sitting in the grass beside her. "We showed Grandma your video," she said. "She didn't say sorry, but she listened." Then she looked up at me. "Do you think she felt it?" "I think it's hard not to feel the truth when it's spoken with love," I answered. That night, I watched the video again by myself. I had only seen it once, the day Maya showed it to Elaine. This time, I wasn't afraid. I didn't cry, I didn't flinch. I listened to every word and felt them settle in places I had kept guarded for too long. Jason didn't just love me. He believed in me, in us. He saw all the parts of me I had once been ashamed of, my past, my pain, my quiet resilience, and he called them beautiful, not broken, not damaged, just mine and his. I carried that with me into everything after. I stopped dimming myself to make others comfortable. I said no when I needed to. I let Maya see that strength isn't about being loud. It's about knowing when silence is no longer the answer. One day, about a month later, a small package arrived at our door. There was no note, just a return address in Elaine's handwriting. Inside was a photo. It was one I had never seen before. Jason holding Maya on his shoulders, laughing as she reached up for something in the trees. I was in the background, blurry, but smiling. It was the kind of photo you don't pose for. The kind someone takes when they're watching quietly, trying to understand something they never bothered to look at before. There was no message, no apology, but it was something. Not forgiveness, not healing, but maybe a beginning. I placed the photo on our mantel. Maya noticed it right away. "She sent that?" she asked. "Yes. Does it mean she's sorry?" "I don't know, but it means she's trying. A little." Maya studied the photo for a while, then shrugged. "I like our version of the story better anyway." I smiled. So did I, because in our version, love wasn't earned through approval or appearances. It was built, choice by choice, word by word, on truth, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. In our version, strength didn't come from shouting. It came from knowing who we were and standing in that, even when someone tried to shrink it. In our version, a daughter spoke up for her mother. A mother stood still so her daughter could shine, and a husband, even in death, found a way to speak the words we needed to hear. He reminded us, we weren't a broken girl and a bastard kid. We were a family, and no one could take that away from us. If this story made you feel something, if you saw yourself in it or someone you love, don't let it end here. Like the video, if it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that silence isn't weakness, and that love, real love, leaves no one behind. Comment below if you've ever had to stand your ground against judgment or protect the people you love with nothing but the truth. I read every single one, and your story matters too. And subscribe to the channel for more real stories that go deeper than drama. Stories about family, healing, and the strength we find when we stop waiting to be accepted and start choosing ourselves. Thanks for watching. We are not what others call us. We are what we choose to rise from.